Hello and welcome to the Beckoning Bookshelf. I'm your host, Jeffrey Ashcraft. 25 years ago, on a Saturday morning in December of 2001, my father invited me to go to a movie. I asked what movie, and he said, The Lord of the Rings. I promptly turned down the offer because I didn't really have any interest in watching some cheesy marriage flick. That's all that my uncultured brain could fathom a movie titled The Lord of the Rings could be about. I thought it was going to be some Jane Austen movie. Well, my father must have had a sixth sense that day and knew I had to see this movie, because then he offered to pay for me. I said, sure, I'll go. Free movie? Why not? And that's where my Lord of the Rings adventure began. And I just went and rewatched The Fellowship of the Ring in theaters last weekend as part of the 25th anniversary. So as part of the 25th anniversary, Fathom Entertainment is rescreening the trilogy over a couple of weekends in January of this year, 2026. And I went and saw them. And they are, well, I saw one of them. I saw Fellowship of the Ring. And it is still fantastic. It is amazing. It is wonderful. And they also are providing some cool merch. Well, not providing. You can buy it. Concessions. A couple popcorn tins and a cup. This is the popcorn tin I got. One ring to rule them all. And the 25th anniversary logo. It is a metal popcorn tin. And it's gold inside. I think it's a good size. It cost me $12. Thought it was a good price. Never had a metal popcorn tin, and now I do. There's another popcorn tin you can get from AMC Theaters, which has the map of Middle-earth and a magnet set. I say can get. Probably not anymore. They're probably all gone. You probably have to buy it from eBay for like $60 if you want one. There's only one cup available, which I got. Well, one type of cup. Again, 25th anniversary logo, and this time it has Frodo and Gandalf, I almost said Sam, riding into the Shire through a ring, kind of like Sonic. See? Yeah. It's a good cup, not metal. It's made of plastic, black interior. I think it's good quality. I don't know about plastic cup quality. I don't know. But it's tall. It's really tall. I don't have any straws this tall. Not that I plan on using it, but it's huge. And it's great art. It looks fantastic. So watching this in theaters again, I couldn't help but think back as to when I watched it the first time. Which, by the way, rewatching it this weekend, I watched it in the same theater as I did 25 years ago. I didn't realize that until the movie was almost over. If I had, I may have tried to sit a little closer to where I had sat the first time. Well, I wouldn't have sat in the exact seat because we sat in the third row on the far left side. So it wasn't an ideal seating. So I wouldn't have picked that again. But I would have picked a seat closer to it, at least. But yeah, so I thought back as to when I watched it the first time, how this all started for me. And like I said, I had no idea what Lord of the Rings even was. So imagine my just wonder and bafflement as I'm watching this grand adventure unfold on the big screen. I was entranced by the film. On like an internal emotional level. That's how I was reacting to everything. Throughout the whole movie, I wasn't forming any concrete thoughts. And I hadn't reacted like this to a film since I was a kid, where nothing else in the world exists for me. Literally nothing. My world is the film. And I am just like existent for the film. That's really what it was. And I was finally able to start forming words again when Frodo and Sam were walking down towards Mordor. And the first thought I actually had, this is when my brain started booting up again, and I began to actually exist as a human being once more. My first thought I had was, what's going to happen next? And guess what happened next? Credits! What? Credits? I felt betrayed. I really did. I just sat there slack-jawed. What? Excuse me? I had no idea it was a trilogy. I had no idea that there was going to be more than one. So I felt betrayed. And that movie stayed with me for days. It just mulled about in my head. And I can't say that I was thinking about it because, like I said before, I didn't really understand what I had watched. Not to a full comprehension anyway. I still thought, well, I wondered about the ring bearer's name. If it was Frodo or Frogo. With a G. I didn't know. Well, a year later, I was buying my own tickets for the Two Towers. I was sitting right in the middle, center seating. I was so ready, and my just absolute love and obsession for Lord of the Rings awakened. Well, by that point, it had awakened. And I had finally been able to absorb what Lord of the Rings was. And I think this is something that happens to me when I experience something that I just have, that just really just works for me, that just fits me on just, I don't know, a molecular level, I guess? I don't know. It takes a bit for me to finally absorb it, for me to finally take it all in, and it just becomes a part of me, essentially. Yeah. So, but why do I love Lord of the Rings so much? Why is it so amazing for me? Well, I love the grand adventure. And I love the just absolute majesty of it all, the exploring of this unknown world, and just how well the story is told. It's just a fantastically told story. And I love its moral core. The moral core where you can just examine it. You can just, like a dwarf, you can delve way too deep in there and just continue to uncover more and more things. There is so much to discover when you study and really ponder about the Lord of the Rings, about this story that Tolkien wrote. And I believe it's because Tolkien just had a great passion for it. And you can just feel that in the story itself. So it just awakens a sense of adventure in me. And like, whenever I have to go, like, okay, let me say this. I am more of a hobbit than I am, say, an elf or a dwarf or a man. Now, yes, I'm human, but yeah, if I'm looking at Lord of the Rings, like species, I'm a hobbit. I love staying at home. I love the comfort of home. I love food. I like eating. You know, I don't like crazy adventures. Well, it's not to say I don't like them, but they scare me. You give me the option of going on some crazy adventure and staying home, I want to stay home. That's what I am naturally. But the Lord of the Rings encourages me to actually go out there, to go on a grand adventure, to go places that I have never even fathomed myself being. And I have done that, and I have never regretted these adventures I've gone on. And I thank Lord of the Rings partly for it, because if I have the chance to go on an adventure and I'm hesitating, for whatever reason it may be, it could be fear, it could be discomfort, it could just be just laziness. I remember the Lord of the Rings. And that just call to adventure. And that gives me the encouragement to go, and also reminds me that nothing happens at home. If I just stay home, then my life doesn't really go anywhere. But if I want to have adventures, if I want my life to be something, I got to go out there. It reminds me of a song that I just adored as a kid, and I still love today. The Greatest Adventure, from the 1977 animated film The Hobbit. It's the movie's theme song. The greatest adventure is what lies ahead. Today and tomorrow are yet to be said. The chances, the changes are all yours to make. The mold of your life is in your hands to break. So the Lord of the Rings is just a good reminder for me to just go out and just experience the world, experience life, experience all the grand things that are out there. And like I said, I love its moral core. It's just a good reminder to also strive to be the best I can be. Strive to be a good, strong, moral person. And lastly, I think Peter Jackson's films work really well in catching all of this, because that's part of what Lord of the Rings is, part of its core. You know, like I was saying, the moral core, the moral foundation, also this call to adventure, just this absolutely magnificent, wonderful, crazy world, all these wonderful things you can experience. So I think that Peter Jackson's films capture those essential parts of the Lord of the Rings. What makes the Lord of the Rings, well, some of the things that make the Lord of the Rings such a good story that is even beloved by people today. It's an old book, yet people still read it. People still reference it. And I love how Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings is good for those who are familiar with it and those who are completely new to it. So, but that's just me just not ranting. That's just me just talking about Lord of the Rings, just talking your ear off, because I just really, really enjoy the story, and I love what Peter Jackson did with the films. Are they perfect films? No, and maybe I'll do an episode this year talking more about like what I think of the films themselves, because they're not perfect, they're near perfect. I give it that. They make a lot of changes to the books, most of which I like, most of which I agree with. A few I don't like, but I understand why they did it. Doesn't mean I like it. It doesn't mean I think it's good, but I understand what they did. So at least there's a reason behind it, and a logical one. So, but have you watched The Lord of the Rings? When did you last watch Lord of the Rings? And what was your first experience with Lord of the Rings? Was your first experience Peter Jackson's movies? Or was it reading the book? Or maybe some of the animated Lord of the Rings, like the animated Lord of the Rings or the animated Return of the King. Now, what was your first experience with Lord of the Rings, and what do you think of Lord of the Rings? Well, thank you for being here. Thank you always for being here. I hope you have some good adventures lined up for this year, some grand things, some good memories to be made, and go find yourself a good book.